A Mafia enforcer with a price on his head was killed by two rappers, while the man standing next to him remained untouched until he went on a run and was in Mexico. And just months after the hit, one of the rappers would be assassinated himself when he was found dead in a home before he could ever be brought to trial. For years now, the police in Ontario have argued that the Mafia is using young gang members to carry out targeted hits. Now, if you're not familiar with the gang politics in Canada, the mob is alive and well there. Targeted hits are being carried out by young men paid big money by the mob in an attempt most likely to cover up their own involvement.
Bro, I didn't even know the mob was still, like, don't get me wrong, I know, like, gangsters always gonna exist, you know what I'm saying? But, like, the actual mob, bro, I never even knew that shit was still, like, a thing, bro. I want to put y'all on to some of the easiest money you'll ever make in your life. Freecash.com is a website that allows you to literally get paid hundreds of dollars just for playing video games on your phone. All you need is an email and a password. Follow the directions on each of the campaigns and you can earn at least $100. My personal favorite game to play was Sunrise Island, and when I clicked on it, they had a $370 bonus. I got $370 just for playing a video game on my phone. On average, it only takes about 17 minutes for most people to start earning money on freecash.com. So if you need some free, easy, extra money, go to freecash.com, click the QR code right here, or go in the description below and start getting that bag. You did? And especially to be in Canada, that's crazy.
Is a Toronto rapper from a hood called Jungle in Lawrence Heights, and YS is another Toronto rapper from Shoreham Courts. These are two young men that had reputations on the street, as YS was known as a shooter, somewhat controversially, as I've even seen him being accused of hitting an innocent victim in one instance, while Flipper, also known as Postman, is reputed to be a shooter and a bank robber, with him being identified in shootings from Alberta to Ontario since all the way back in 2013.
Oh, he been sliding and gliding, and he robbing banks. He think it's GTA. That's what's going on.
Which, for reference, Calgary, a city in Alberta, to Toronto, a city in Ontario, is about a 33-hour drive. So it's safe to say that this guy's been getting active all over Canada.
Oh, so he getting paid and he just doing whatever. That's far as hell, bro. 37 hours? I don't even, god damn, I think it take more time. It take less time to get from Cali to New York, nigga. Or Cali to Miami. Damn.
And this is likely what put him on the radar of the Mafia in York. Now, Antonio Fiorda was known as a mobster in Canada, and the police associate him with the Commisso crime family, which is part of the Saderno group. Now, the Saderno is a huge criminal association related to Ndrangheta, which is widely considered to be the most powerful mafia in Europe, although it's less centralized than you might think, as it's divided into several different families. But in Canada, it's called the Saderno because the first mobsters associated with Ndrangheta to come over to Canada came from the small town of Saderno in southern Italy. And obviously the main branch of the Commisso crime family is in southern Italy, but they have a very dangerous branch in the greater Toronto area, also known as GTA. Now, Antonio, also known as Tony or Scratch.
The greater Toronto area, also known as GTA. What I just say, folks? They
also known as GTA. Now, Antonio, also known as Tony or Scratch due to his gravel voice, had been laying low for some time after his release from prison. As in 1996, Tony was arrested when police not only found an AK-47, but also several explosives at his home in North York. Now, according to an associate of his, Tony was a made man, an enforcer, and a loan shark, but somebody wanted Tony dead. Now, since 2016, he had been working as sort of a bodyguard for a money man in the Mafia. This money man had been the victim of a home invasion and robbery, probably because of all the money he was laundering, which led to a senior member of the Commisso family requesting that Tony watch over him. Could the same people that robbed this money man be the ones that wanted Tony out of the way? Well, it's hard to say, and this money man was never identified, nor the city that the home invasion took place in. And this is definitely one thing that separates the mob from a regular street gang. The code of silence is actually followed, and even when some associates are willing to provide information, you probably still won't get the whole story. What I do know is that Tony wasn't killed until 3 years after this home invasion, so if it was the same people behind both attacks, either they were really patient or Tony was just hard to catch. After all, being known as an enforcer, he wasn't a rookie and definitely would have known how to move around as Mafia hits take place every year in Canada.
And my question is, why can't dudes, like, the America is so different, bro. Like, America damn near the wild. It is the wild west. You see what I'm saying? Every man for themselves. Every man do whatever they want to. The only place where I see it's a little bit of structure is California, gang. But even then, you got renegades and people doing whatever they want to do. So it ain't like the mob how they got this shit tied together. Like some people get caught. Don't get me wrong, but it don't never really the law don't really come down hard on them because they don't leave hard evidence. They don't have no real personal self-involvement. They always do shit the right way. You feel me? Not to say the right way because they still committing crimes, but
when he was caught, of course, it was a situation involving another person, which sound like a setup to some people.
Right.
But nothing has been proven. Tony was in Etobicoke, an area in Toronto, on Monday, November 4th in 2019 to meet an associate of his named Joseph Catrapa. Okay. They were most likely scheduled to have dinner at Via Allegro. Now, it's unclear whether they had already had dinner, but since some reports state that Joseph was standing beside Tony out in the parking lot, it's implied that they were just leaving the restaurant. Right. But as they stepped out into the parking lot, a Ford F-150 pulled up, and Tony was ambushed by two men that hopped out and shot him down. But Catrapa was left untouched. But out of the 4 people at this crime scene, only 2 would survive a full year after this. Catrapa immediately fled to Cancun, Mexico, where he stayed at a hotel and resort, but 10 months after the murder of Tony, Catrapa would be himself murdered at this same hotel in 2020. Now,
they found him at the hotel. Do you know how fucking crazy these people gotta be? Cause I ain't gonna lie to you, if you in Chicago, bro, and you get into it with your ops and you go to fucking Mexico, I promise you, you're good. Do your homework on good, bruh. You feel me? Ain't nobody gonna do nothing to you in Mexico. I promise you. These niggas ain't got no money. You good, gang. You don't even gotta go that far. You take your ass to Texas and be decent. You feel me? The fact that they left Canada and went all the way to Mexico and he got killed a year later at the hotel? This is some real 007 goddamn Agent Zero type shit.
Catrapa was also associated with the Musitano crime family, which was headed by brothers Pat and Angelo Musitano. Both brothers, though, have since been killed. Now, as for the 2 rappers, Flippa and YS, just 1 year later, the Toronto police would end up discovering who the 2 shooters were in Tony's case. Flippa was arrested, but YS, who authorities identified as the one who actually fired the fatal shots, couldn't be arrested because he was found dead inside of a residence 4 months earlier.
They called him back.
And although Flippa, aka Postman, would allude to the fact that YS should have been the only suspect, he never actually said YS was the shooter, likely trying not to place himself at the scene. But when asked about the picture of him and YS holding a large sum of money, he states that the money all belonged to YS. Now, the Crown prosecutors state that the 2 men were paid $60,000 for the hit. But they provided no evidence of who actually paid them, probably because they had none.
Right.
Now, obviously, the only living man on the case couldn't indicate who paid him without implicating himself in the crime. Right. But it's likely he didn't even fully know who it was that paid him.
Hell no.
If what Canadian authorities say is true, and that the mob has been paying low-level street guys to do their dirty work, it's likely that they were also smart enough to remain anonymous while doing it. But who would have wanted Tony dead? The 2 rappers are less important in this part of the story because it's clear that they were just pawns.
So you gotta think about it. The mob is on YouTube, probably searching and looking. Like, let me see if I can find some of these young dumb motherfuckers that's talking about murders and shooting people in their raps. Let me find out. Hey, you know who that is? You know who that is, Paulie? Yeah, they say he did some work down in Kino. Oh yeah? Give me a thoughts with him, huh? You feel? Did I do good? No, okay. Was my accent good? Y'all let me know, man. Let me know in the comments, man. I'll be working on it. Listen, though. So they probably on YouTube sniping, looking for a Toronto drill rapper. Hitting them up somehow, some way, staying anonymous. Tell them they'll give them 60 racks. That's probably more money than they ever seen in their goddamn life. What hood? Most hood niggas is gonna jump at that for 60, bro. I ain't gonna lie to you. You know what I'm saying? Hey, get this nigga up out of there real quick. I know you're not gonna know him, but nigga, do it. I'll give you the money.
Was probably killed to tie up a loose end, or by the Camiso family themselves if they figured out who the shooters were.
Right.
And Flippa was a crash out, and the Mafia most likely knew this, so he was definitely disposable.
Yep.
Now, the Camiso family has many enemies, and almost a year before Tony's death, in July 2018, Cosimo Camiso, the nephew of another Cosimo Camiso, who holds a leadership role in the Mafia, was sitting in a vehicle with his girlfriend Chantel on Castle Point Drive in Woodbridge, Ontario. And this is when they were ambushed and killed. killed. Now, despite the fact that authorities state that there's only 2 ways in to this fairly closed-off residential area, this double homicide remains unsolved. The blame, however, has been pointed at the Wolfpack Alliance, who Cosimo had allegedly clashed with the year before. Now, the Wolfpack Alliance is much younger than traditional crime families in Ontario, and it's also not a single group but a loose alliance of millennial-aged gangsters, and it was founded by an older member of the Hells Angels, Larry Amaro. Now, the Wolfpack Alliance is huge, and they've been known to be involved in drug trafficking and even several gang wars, specifically in Montreal. And the group is no stranger to murder, as they've dished it out and been on the receiving end, but there is still no definitive proof that they were behind the murder of Cosimo or the murder for hire carried out by the 2 rappers. Now, I find it very strange that 5 years later, there still isn't much evidence on who provided the payment. The authorities know that the $60,000 came from somewhere, and they seem to be sure that the Mafia is paying low-level street guys, but it doesn't seem like they have much physical evidence. Clearly, the 2 gang members wouldn't just randomly target and execute a made man connected to an Italian crime syndicate for no reason. This wasn't a robbery or some revenge attack, and it's likely that the attackers and the victim didn't even know each other. And with YS dead, Postman had no chance, as there just so happened to be undercover cops sitting in the parking lot watching the whole thing through binoculars. And he ended up being found guilty of this as well as another murder and sentenced to life.
Wait, in what parking lot? He was watching through binoculars when so damn. So it was an undercover detective that was probably already on the mafia dudes. Probably was just tracking them, you know what I'm saying? Or probably had some type of information on some, and he literally had binoculars and watched the murder happen. That's crazy. Do your homework.
Through binoculars. And he ended up being found guilty of this as well as another murder and sentenced to life. Now, even if he did have information on the mob to give authorities, it likely wouldn't have helped his case, as not only did the undercover agents testify against him, but also one of his getaway drivers. And not to mention, he probably didn't have the level of information law enforcement could have used to bring down any crime syndicate.
So it was no way you was gonna get out that sentence. You got sentenced to life for 2 murders. You got snitched on by 1 detective and a getaway driver. And you don't even really know who gave you the money. You can't even tell on a nigga. But you see the difference between slow ass niggas and the mafia? These dumb motherfuckers get paid for a murder and they get right on Instagram with a bunch of money. Stupid ass, just dumb ass niggas. You know what I'm saying? Mafia motherfucker you don't even know who he is. He ain't even show his face, give you a name, probably ain't even talk to you. That nigga ass pulled up, dropped the money off, told you to stay in your car, pulled off, no license plate, disappear. You don't even know who paid you. You don't know nothing. You ain't even got no opportunity to snitch because you ain't got shit to snitch on because you don't know shit. Meanwhile, y'all dumb ass go catch a body for 60 racks and get right on Instagram probably the same damn day.
Ladies and gentlemen,
FBI, open up!
We got him.
So we have 3 dead and 1 in prison in a clear mob hit, while the true perpetrators remain unknown. But just how common is this practice? Claudia Iacono was murdered in front of her beauty salon in a brazen attack, with 4 people later being arrested. And what the media was sure to point out is that she was the daughter-in-law of mob boss Moreno Gallo.
She was the daughter-in-law of a fucking mafia boss,
who was killed in Mexico. Now, in the attack on her, there was no robbery. She was shot in her car, but no Grand Theft Auto took place. So it looks like this was just another targeted hit. Canada is more dangerous than a lot of us Americans will give it credit for, and I have vastly understated just how many mafia killings have taken place over the last 10 years. In the U.S., whatever business the mafia has going on is mostly kept under wraps. Every now and then in New York or Philly, you'll hear something, but there seems to be more back and forth shootings between organized crime groups in Canada, more resembling the U.S. mob activity from decades ago. It's not just the low-level gang members and drill rappers. There are multi-million-dollar operations, cartel connections, and cold-blooded wars happening.
See, shit like that I'm scared of, bro. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm scared of a YN with a switch, don't get me wrong, but I'm way more scared of, like, the cartels, the mob. Y'all got real money, real resources, private jets, politicians, fucking boats. Y'all got $1 million you know what I'm saying? Like, that shit's scary for real. Like, that's some real goddamn real GTA
and
type
within
shit.
Our northern neighbor. But if you'd like to hear me go deeper on this subject, just let me know in the comments. And as always, thank you guys for watching.
Ooh, I did not know and Trap University really put us on. So shout out to Trap University because I love watching. He's one of my favorite YouTubers actually right now. You know what I'm saying? Who I just love watching. Clear, straight to the point. Got all the information, and he talking about shit that nobody else talking about. So Trap University in the chat. You know what I'm saying? W chat, W Trap. You feel me? Let's go.